Alright, so I'm doing my Tech Talk 2 on the DNA App Store. The DNA App Store is an idea for an online marketplace that will allow users to check if they potentially have or are susceptible to certain conditions and diseases. It's presented by Helix, and Helix responded to the common question, which is I'd pay $5 if I were able to know if I had a disease. So like when people are hearing like news reports about things that people are having or getting, they want to know if they potentially will have that or are susceptible to it. They're latching onto that, and for a small fee, they're allowing people to know if they could potentially have a disease or condition or currently do. And over the past few years, Helix has acquired $100 million in capital from both a company called Illumina and private investors to make this idea come to life. So how will it work? This DNA App Store will work kind of like the Apple App Store, in which user will purchase the App Store app, and that will operate like the App Store, except it'll be a little different where a spit sample will be collected from the user, and then that will be sent in and sequenced by Illumina, which has partnered with Helix. Illumina is a biotechnology company that produces sequencers as well as other tools to help sequence and database users' DNA. This is pretty significant because DNA files are huge, coming into up to 80 terabytes per person. So to be able to sequence and database that effectively, that's going to be key to this idea of success, especially when you're talking about millions of users potentially using this app store. So after DNA is collected and sequenced, the user could then use the app to see if they're susceptible to or have a certain condition for a small fee. So this app will cost $80 up front, and that will include the initial sequencing and decoding of your genes. The part of the genes that will be decoded is the exome of your DNA, and that includes about 20,000 genes. So the primary idea behind this concept and what sets it different from other companies such as like TGen, which will also sequence your DNA, is that they're going to sequence your DNA at once, store that, and then you could query it often against different parameters. And that's fundamentally different with how other companies operate, because like with TGen, if you want your DNA sequence, they're only going to sequence a targeted area of that DNA to check that spot for mutations or other factors that can lead to diseases and conditions. So benefits of this approach is that there's a lower cost. Most companies charge a minimum of $500 for just targeted sequencing, making this broad sequencing extremely affordable. Also, because it is broad sequencing, there's less preparation to be done. You don't have to do any PCR or anything like that because you're sequencing basically the whole genome instead of just a specific part of it, so you don't have to isolate it, which actually reduces cost. You'll have a broader consumer base because you don't have to go to a doctor or a biotechnology clinic to have your DNA sequenced. You're open to many vendors because this is an app store. You're not just limited to Helix. It's going to be open source, so developers can come in and other companies and offer their analysis of your DNA for a small fee. So you just get like more inputs, and that's a lot better than just having one company look at it. And then also, if you want to know something, you can know about it. If you don't want to know about something, you don't have to know about it. If normally the way it works right now is if you go to say TGen, I'm just speaking of that because I had an internship there, and you want your DNA sequenced, and we find something there, we're going to tell you about it, whether you want to know it or not. So if it guarantees you're going to be dying by the age of 60, you don't have to know about it with Helix's approach. You could choose not to know because you don't have to pay to have that checked. Whereas other companies, they'll check that automatically and then tell you, which, just knowing that can lead to stress. However, there's a lot of concerns with this. For beginners, the user's DNA is going to be stored on a database, which means it's susceptible to hacking. There's a lot of privacy concerns with this because your DNA is everything that makes you you. So if others can find that, they'll make the user susceptible to things such as blackmail. If there's things in your DNA they want to keep secret. There's no controls on how the results of your queries will be shared, which means that insurance companies may land or get your information and your DNA. So if you happen to be a user who's more likely to become sick or has a genetic defect, that could increase your insurance costs, whereas those that are likely to stay healthy or don't have any major defects are going to have reduced costs. So that could be a huge win-lose that might be viewed unfairly. As well, then you also have paranoia. Because nothing's for certain when it comes to genetics, someone could show positive for a defect but never show symptoms in their life. However, that's going to be in the back of their mind for their entire life, just knowing that they might have this, which could lead to a lot of stress. And then also you can have false positives, which also will lead to stress. And then you can also just have people that check themselves against literally everything there just because they want to know, and they're paranoid about what they can know or can have. And just having the ability to know will lead them to that like trail of just checking everything, which I mean would be beneficial to your health. But if you discover something that you can't do anything about, then you're just kind of in the blue on what to do, and that's just going to be in your mind your entire life. Here are my sources, and that's a DNA App Store.